All right, well, good day, everyone. We want to welcome you to our PrimePay Broker Concierge webinar titled, How Employee Benefit Technology is Changing the Employee Benefit Landscape. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Jackson. I'm the Senior Vice President of our award-winning Broker Concierge Partner Program, and I am absolutely thrilled that you have taken time out of your busy schedule to view and certainly listen to this very important topic of our day. As always, we've got a lot of folks on our webcast here today. So before we get started, let me just cover some of the logistics of our webinar here today. You know, as many of you are aware, because of the volume numbers of attendees here today, we have muted everyone's lines. But there's still a chance for you to get engaged in the conversation today. Near the end of our webinar, and if time warrants and permits, we expect to take questions from the audience and enable you to have some engagement with our panelists. Now, we do have a full breadth of content here today, so I don't know exactly how much time we will have, but we still want to hear from you. So if you would, to type in your question, go to the question box in your GoToMeeting menu and hit submit. Don't wait until the end to submit your question. Feel free to submit a question at any time throughout the presentation today. Now, I do want to remove one question that you do not need to send me. All right, the number one question we generally receive is, are you recording this? Yes, the answer is yes. You're going to be able to view the recording from our Broker Concierge channel on YouTube. You want to look for that upload to be available sometime for viewing here over the next couple of days. So also at the end of the webinar, I will come back on to wrap up our conversation and fill you in on some interesting tools and resources that we will be providing you as follow-up to this webinar today. Okay, I think that will take care of the logistics for now. So you all have heard the important buzzwords of the day, right? Such as broker of the future, expanding beyond benefits, transparency, the power of engagement, maximizing your delivery of services, right? Transforming your agency. You've heard all of those. But when you dig into each one of those buzzwords, there are very meaningful and powerful ideas and strategies for you and your agency to consider. Because the fact of the matter is, the employer's landscape is changing due to a plethora of factors, and you must adapt accordingly if you expect to meet the objectives that you have laid out for your agency. I just want to have a brief history lesson here to a degree. Back in 1965, so 53 years ago, Gordon Moore, he was the co-founder of Intel, so one of the largest semiconductor manufacturers in the world. He noticed that the number of transistors per square inch on an integrated circuit had doubled every year since their invention. Now, this became known as Moore's Law. And over the last 53 years, although there's been a little bit of adjustment, it now takes about every 18 months, it's expected that Moore's Law is going to continue in the foreseeable future. The point I want to make here is that it's how quickly technology changes, how it adapts, how it consistently improves upon itself. It's an area that never sleeps, and employers see technology as a key resource in performing the simple administrative tasks to managing key regulatory compliance risks such as wages and compensation, benefits, insurance, HR, and so much more. As one of the most trusted advisors to your clients, you sit in a wonderful position to provide insight, ideas, strategies, and in the case of our topic today, technology that can transform and equip your agency to maximize the delivery of your products and services. We have such a powerful lineup for you today. I'm pretty pumped, as you can maybe tell. I think I can honestly say that there's never been a time when all 5 of these remarkable individuals have come together to share ideas in this type of forum. You should expect to walk away with some great insight on this important topic. Let me introduce our host for today. Lisa Collins, as part of our Broker Concierge program, is the Director of Partnerships here at PrimePay. She is responsible for leading our strategy with national broker relationships and integrated technology partnerships. Lisa, We are so excited to hear from these experts, and I'm going to turn the control over to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Steve. So a few years back, we saw a new type of HR and benefit technology model enter the market, and let's call it the Zenefits type model. And there was a disruption, really, in the broker community. We saw other companies follow suit, such as Namely and Gusto and many others. And brokers took notice because that was a threat to them. You were looking for solutions to combat this new competition. Thankfully, we have some technology companies that entered the market with a broker-focused technology solution, and 4 of those companies are on our discussion panel today. The large majority of the broker's book of business is small to mid-sized groups, and these newcomers to the market at the time provided employee benefit technology for these smaller companies. And they continue to expand not only in size, but in the solutions that they offer. Today, we see technology is much more agile than it's ever been. It's keeping up with the industry changes that we are experiencing. The brokers and the employers don't need IT experience, and these models are more affordable and will really provide a platform through even some broker licensing fees and unlimited clients that you can put onto the platform. Recently, we have again seen a change in the industry, the technology industry, exit the old Zenefits type model where technology is free with the BOR, and enter a new model where these companies are now working with brokers. Is this change permanent? Nobody knows. But as a broker, if I was a broker, I would consider a technology company that has been broker friendly from the beginning. There's a clear message here, though. You must incorporate technology into your business if you've not already done so. And if you have, you may want to revisit or reevaluate, as the market really has considerably changed over the past couple years. So our goal in our webinar today, if I can get this to switch over, there you go. I'll put it back. I'm having a little technical difficulties there. So our goal in today's webinar is to provide you with valuable information in the HR and employee benefit technology space to help put wins in your sales, to create momentum in your business, to move up market, obtain new clients, and grow your book of business. As Steve said, we are really excited to have leading industry experts on our technology panel today. They'll share their insight with you. These guests are true thought leaders in this industry. We are providing you, they are providing you with information to compete, to strengthen your client relationships, and also meet your client demands. I recently read this article in Employee Benefit News, and it said the biggest competition is yourself, the lack of action and keeping to the status quo. And the second biggest competition is other brokers who have incorporated technology into their business model. So we feel confident after today's presentation, these 2 competitive threats will no longer be a business threat to you if you make decisions and take actions on what is shared today. We have, I mean, this is amazing. We have over 150 years of employee benefit expertise on our panel. Lots of credentials, so I'm going to go through this fairly quickly so we can get into the questions that we have for our panelists. So our first guest panelist is George Reese, the CEO of Employee Navigator. George is a member of the board of directors and is responsible for the overall vision, strategy, and execution. He's been the CEO since establishing Employee Navigator in 2008 with Walter Hill. And prior to founding Employee Navigator, George was the founder and CEO of Flex America, which was acquired by a private equity firm in 2007. Flex America was an independent TPA of consumer-based healthcare, transportation, and COBRA benefits, servicing over 3,500 companies, employing over 1.2 million eligible employees. Prior to founding Flex America, George was a partner at an employee benefit brokerage agency for 8 years. He has a Bachelor's of Art degree. He also has a Chartered Life Underwriters, Registered Employee Benefit Consultant, Registered Health Underwriters, and Certified Flex Consultant. Employee Navigator is one of the fastest growing SaaS-based benefit and HR platforms. The platform provides brokers and their clients with a single place to manage everything from new hire onboarding and online enrollment to ACA reporting and streamlined communication. Employee Navigator's highly customizable software is currently being used by some of the nation's leading insurance brokers, TPAs, and carriers. I want to introduce you also to David Reed, the founder and CEO of EaseCentral. David has over 30 years of experience in the employee benefits and group insurance industry and is one of the earliest adopters of technology as an integral strategy to the employers in the late 1990s. Throughout his career, David's focus has been creating broker-centric solutions that are easy to use and practical to deploy. EaseCentral is the all-in-one software solution for employee benefits, payroll, and HR. Built for agents and employers, cloud-based EaseCentral makes it simple for companies to set up and manage over 50 types of benefits, coordinate payroll and HR, collaborate with employers on new hires, changes, and terminations, and deliver completed tax information, all from one location. More than 30,000 employers and 1 million employees currently use EaseCentral for benefits and HR. Our next guest panelist is Kraft Hayes. Kraft leads Bernie Portal's sales team and drives the company's efforts to demonstrate the benefits of Bernie Portal to their broker partners. He has a slightly different perspective to share, as he was previously the Nashville market's leader for benefit brokerage, Bernard Health, where he had the most profitable and largest recurring book of revenue, and was recently named a 2017 Rising Star in Benefits by Employee Benefits Advisor. His direct brokerage experience gives him and his team particular insights into the challenges faced by Bernie Portal's broker partners and how they are poised to solve them. Bernie Portal is an online all-in-one HR platform that helps small and medium-sized employers solve the transactional challenges of HR with software and the strategic challenges of healthcare with a trusted advisor. Built by brokers for brokers, Bernie Portal tackles onboarding, PTO tracking, time and attendance, compliance, benefit administration, 1095C, reporting, and COBRA. Bernie Portal is supported by a network of healthcare advisors and brokers nationwide. Next, we have Toni Ostrom, the VP of Operations at WolfTracs. She has over 23 years experience in all aspects of operations management from the carrier side. Her expertise has more recently been in medical, life, disability, and voluntary products, from product development and administration to claims payment. Toni has presented at industry conferences and sat on numerous boards, including treasurer of TriZetto Group Fax User Board, director of Oregon Life and Health Insurance Guarantee Association Board, and the director of Washington Life and Health Insurance Guarantee Association Board as well. She has worked with WolfTracs software for the last 16 years and is a University of Portland graduate. WolfTracs is a full-service website and system development company located in Boring, Oregon. Seeking to simplify employee benefit administration. Over the past 16 years, their system has administered benefits for over 1,000 employer groups and individual products for over 60,000 subscribers. WolfTracs for employers, association, agents, and brokers provides a real solution to today's chaos. They have the experience, knowledge, and dedication to provide the technology needed to handle the complex world of employee benefit enrollment and administration. And we're also thrilled to have a broker perspective. We're excited that this employee benefit consultant, Kathy Aranis, she is a principal in the firm Lathal Shaw Insurance Agency. She's worked with the agency over the past 25 years in their employee benefit division and has seen it grow dramatically over those 25 years. The agency is located in Northwest Pennsylvania and has been in business for 90 years. The agencies have 4 divisions: individual, personal lines, commercial, and an employee benefit division. She is the principal in the firm since 2002 in the employee benefit division. She's worked for about the past 10 years with employee benefit technology and will provide some valuable insight how she has used technology to retain and also to grow her book of business. So as you can see, we have a fantastic panel. So let's get into the questions. We have a lot of content to cover here. Over probably the next 45 minutes or so. We have 12 questions that we're going to pose to our expert panel for their insight. So let's start for the first question. George, can you address what's driving the employee benefit technology movement?
Sure. I think from our perspective, Lisa, you had mentioned one of the driving factors was Zenefits, and when they came out in I think 2012, they really woke up the brokerage market by saying that they could do the same thing that a broker could do and provide some online administration. So I think between Zenefits and the requirement for ACA on the 1095 side, that drove a lot of brokers to consider moving to some form of a technology to produce all the information that was necessary. But we also believe there's kind of four other things that are driving the broker's decision-making process on what kind of software they should also select as they go through that process. So the first one, we kind of call it the Zenefits effect, was the first one. The second one that is driving a lot of brokers is they really need to start to consider one solution. So I think brokers are hamstrung or dealing with a lot of different systems at this point, whether it's one system that a broker had already used prior to taking over a group. So there is the need as a broker moves forward to kind of align themselves with a single system. Similarly, I think, Lisa, maybe for PrimePay as an example, PrimePay provides COBRA services. PrimePay uses one COBRA solution underneath the covers to manage your COBRA. So it really wouldn't make sense to have multiple COBRA systems, and it wouldn't make sense for a broker to support multiple systems. So that's kind of the second piece that's driving that. The other one that is really becoming more prevalent that I think is driving brokers on some of these technology decisions, which is channel conflict. And the channel conflict is come up more and more in the marketplace, which is brokers don't want to use a solution that is owned by an insurance carrier because they're not going to get a full portfolio of products and services. So that has impacted some decisions that are out there. Brokers also don't want to use a solution that's owned by another insurance broker. There is a conflict of interest there. And it's also not going to attract as many insurance carriers to participate in that marketplace. And the one, Lisa, I think that's becoming more and more prevalent is who's going to be a long-term partner with that insurance broker. There's been a lot of sales of technology providers to insurance carriers, insurance brokers, which means that a lot of the companies and the brokers are having to decide who their long-term partner is going to be, and is that long-term partner going to be there in 5 years, or are they going to sell themselves out to another competitor potentially, or something that's going to break down the marketplace. So it's kind of like, so Lisa, it's Zenefits effect, one system, no channel conflict, low cost. If your broker's whole book has to go online in the future, people need to have it low cost. And the last one is probably control. If you're going to put your livelihood on a system, you probably should be controlling that, which is a definite shift for brokers as they consider having to staff up to manage some of these systems, whereas some of the older models, the legacy model is where everything is outsourced to a third party. I think that's okay if you outsource 1 or 2 or 3 cases to a third party, but you can't outsource your whole book of business. So I think that's kind of forcing brokers to move and bring that technology expertise in-house and start to think strategically instead of tactically one case at a time. Hopefully that was under my 3 minutes.
That was great. It is true that there is so much to consider and think about, and the market is shifting so quickly that the brokers really do need to make an informed decision. But sometimes I think that's hard. They kind of get stuck in the indecision because there's so much to consider. That kind of goes into our next question. So David, can you address what are some of the technology trends that we'll see and the brokers will see over the next few years to take into consideration?
Sure. And I think you might switch to a couple slides here. First, second to everything George says. When I hear him talk, I think it's our common backgrounds. Our companies share very common values with respect to how brokers fit into the ecosystem. So well said there, George. There's a lot of things to talk about in trends, but one that I want to focus on here, you can pop to the next slide, is what I call the three-legged stool, which is benefits, HR, and payroll. And it's the convergence of these technologies, where to some degree platforms or products like ours are really going to be platforms that provide a direct functionality themselves, but also allow best-in-class products to plug in. Now, a big driver of this is the millennials. Okay, it's not the broker community or the insurance carriers that I believe are driving this technology. 1 in 3, a third of the workforce are millennial. In 5 years, they're going to be half millennial. These are people that cannot identify with something that is not connected to the internet. And now that the Zenefits and digital brokers have hit the marketplace, they know they can get it, okay? It's going to happen. The companies are going to go. Next slide, please. I'm going to slide. Okay, the transition here is accelerating, and we're seeing it. The last 5 years, there's been 165% growth rate with small businesses adopting technology. Recent survey, 68% of employees want to do their benefits online. And like I said, the primary driver is the seamless integration of multiple tech. If you can go to the next slide, please. The technology that's driving it is from very common practical aspects, such as single point of data entry. The employer doesn't want to put the data in over and over again for errors. Being able to sync data across multiple platforms. Obviously, you have things like payroll and compliance and HR and onboarding. And like I said earlier, the rising digital brokers have made these small businesses aware that this is available and it's become the standard. So if you go to the final slide here, we've done some analysis and we've got information from a variety of carriers. And the estimates are that about 2% of the SMB space, this is in particular, I'm talking the under 100 employer market. There's 6 million of these people out there, companies out there. Less than 2% nationally is on one of these digital platforms today. California leads the charge with 8%. But over the next 5 to 7 years, these small businesses are going to adopt it. And this is where we're going to see brokers who use technology working with these companies in one way, shape, or form. It's whether you're going to make the transition yourself. So three-legged stool, that is what I see as being one of the biggest trends.
That's some very valuable statistics. I mean, that really speaks to what we can see in the future as far as just the business potential that the brokers have if they embrace with the consultation of different technology. Tony, can you also share, I think this is a very important area, can you share some insight from your perspective?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And again, I think it will sort of overlay what was just said. We are seeing survey results showing employers are looking at spending 50% more in the next year on benefit enrollment administration technologies. The millennials are now America's largest living generation. So technology is no longer an alternative communication, it is how you communicate. They don't do paper. I recently worked with a carrier on a voluntary long-term disability program, which on an individual platform where you have to pay those premiums up front, which you can imagine for executive carve-outs are quite expensive. And if the carrier actually did not have the ability to take a credit card, simple technology, but the people buying this coverage don't have checks. They don't deal in cash and they don't deal in checks. So technology really has to be the forefront of how benefit people are thinking. There are a lot of concerns, I think, around data security with Equifax breaches and other things that people really have that top of mind. So that means that technology to the private clouds as the platform architecture is really becoming important and will continue to be, I think, the accepted technology and best practice going forward. So there's a lot of work happening around that. Seamless integrations, I think that what was said, the real-time data transfers through application program interfaces with lots of vendors. That whole user experience, the non-duplicating of entry, those kinds of things are going to become more and more important. Decision tools are going to be more important. We're seeing all kinds of really complex decision tools being worked on. Our own IT developers are looking at different ways to incorporate really complex artificial intelligence type development, looking for personalized experience on employee data and demographics. And again, to that adaptive technology that really supports the employee as an individual and what their best solutions for that employee are. We are seeing defined contribution plans in the market where the technology is able to support that decision making for those dollars that an employer may give an employee. So that's some advanced technology there that is able to really look at an employee's circumstance and develop benefit programs that make sense for that employee. And then, of course, carriers and vendors are all having to adapt platforms to deliver these services. We work with carriers on evolving their ability to take information and to support this kind of environment and these advances in technology.
That is one of the things that I hear, probably the first question that comes out of the broker's mouth. And Kraft, if you can speak to this, how do you see the carrier enrollment evolving? That's always top of mind for brokers.
Yeah, absolutely, Lisa. And first, Lisa and Steve, thank you for putting this together. It's a fantastic platform for us to be able to share, and also all the panelists for joining and sharing their thought leadership as we go through some of these questions. It's an incredibly exciting space to be in, and Burning Portal's excited, appreciates being a part of this this demo here. When looking at the carrier enrollments and how that's evolving, I think I would communicate first to the advisors and brokers on the line that there's really two systems carriers are thinking about. They've got their eligibility or enrollment platform, but also their billing. And so I'm going to touch on both of those. And I would agree with everybody who's spoken already that whether it's Navigator, EaseCentral, Burning Portal, or WolfTracs, one of those systems, brokers should be making a decision around what they're going to use for their under 1,000 life groups. For those small to medium-sized businesses, so that they're maintaining one system, and then making sure, so from the enrollment eligibility standpoint, they need to make sure that that system can integrate with those carriers. And what we're seeing is a huge transition on the eligibility enrollment side away from EDI and into API. And we can talk more about what that means, but it's very similar to when you post something to your Instagram page and it also shows up on your Facebook page at the same time. It's a real-time data transfer, and that's going to create a lot more accuracy for you. And that's exactly what you want to prevent enrollment issues 30, 60, 90 days after open enrollment or after a new hire qualifying event. On the back end is the one challenge that a lot of advisors and brokers see is that the information in the eligibility system at the insurance carrier doesn't always get transferred into the billing system. And so that creates inaccurate bills, which then leads to you as an advisor and your client having to spend time getting those fixed. And so Burning Portal has poured a tremendous amount of energy and resources into making sure brokers don't have to spend time doing that. And we've gotten programs put together with insurance carriers where the SaaS platform of Burning Portal acts as the billing system of record. And what that allows for is more accurate bills, because the bill, instead of being generated midway through the month, is generated on the last day of the month. So all new hires and terms are accounted for. And you're going to have a much more accurate bill there come out of your SaaS-based system. And so we look at that as kind of the future of whether you're using API to get the information in there in real time, or if carriers are not ready to do API, adopting or agreeing to work with a system that will actually generate the bills on their behalf. And so that's going to streamline things for our broker partners tremendously.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I've had brokers say to me, gosh, we'd like to introduce the additional lines of coverage, but the employer is even apprehensive because of all the billing issues, and just the administration becomes much more cumbersome. George, I know you've done a fair amount of work also with the carriers as far as this EDI, API, whatever the format may be. Can you speak to that as well?
I think the first thing that the brokers need to be reminded of is that benefit administration, until the carrier connectivities are fully up and running over the next 5 years, is actually harder for the agencies. And I know everyone wants to sit here and jump up and down and say, you should put your groups online, you should put your groups online. And whether it's a form technology that's filling, some form of an EDI that's getting over to the insurance carriers, the brokers have to remember that their lives are going to be harder by offering benefit administration, because it is difficult to get the insurance carriers' data into their systems that were built in the 1970s and 80s. You know, one of the major systems that's out there that is used is called Life 70, and that was the year it was developed. So it's not like someone's going to wave a magic wand and some venture firm is going to come in and invest in an organization. They're magically going to transform the data and get it over to the insurance carriers. And I think it's just important, Lisa, that everyone kind of keeps that in mind, that there's still a lot of manual labor. It might not look like it in some times, but there's a lot of manual labor that's going on behind the scenes, and that this concept of press a button and it's all going to be working, I think is just a few years ahead of it. That's where we want it to be. You know, from our perspective, definitely things are moving over to the APIs. I was actually at a conference that I returned, just to give the brokers a perspective. I was at a conference with yesterday that I returned from, and there is ADP and Prudential are kind of telling us, hey, we're going to show you a great API. And you know what? It wasn't an API. It was a single sign-on with a little bit of data exchange, and the employee was jumped from the ADP solution over to a Prudential enrollment page that looked completely different. So I think that the thing that we have to look for is those carriers. If I was a broker, I'd be looking for the carriers that are investing tens of millions of dollars to improve their systems to interact with the benefit administration firms that are out there. There are some leaders. They'll jump ahead and then they'll slow down. So I just think it's something that people should be cautious about and really take into consideration some of the band-aids that people have that they are not aware of, and warts that are actually in the benefit administration world.
So just really asking those for transparency, those questions, getting into the weeds, if you will, with the carriers to determine whether or not that they'll be open with that.
Yeah, but more importantly, the people that the brokers can talk to don't have the answers, and they are, you know, we've seen time and time again that if you haven't been in the industry and you don't understand what's going on, a rep that might be out there for 10 years and is out in the field doesn't really know the full details of how an integration might be working, where the problems are to avoid, you know, and it's that broker's responsibility. So it's almost like you probably want to check with the leaders in your city and talk to your peers at those leadership organizations, and they'll tell you where the problems are. But to believe a salesperson from a firm, you know, their objective is to sell a license or sell a company. So I would just be very cautious that these, no one really knows the details, Lisa, underneath the table that are happening. You know, it's difficult. It's difficult for me, and I've been in the industry for 30 years.
Mm-hmm. So I hear everybody kind of, you know, saying that the brokers are looking for certain things, not always available. They have the hard work, but a lot of times the goal is to have the employer, or especially the employee, make it user-friendly, easy for them. So that kind of leads into that next question that we have about employee engagement. So with employee engagement, there you go. How is employee benefit technology being used for employee engagement? Tony, can you address that one?
Sure. What we see in our markets and with our brokers is that the employee benefits technology is empowering employees to make benefit decisions, and that's becoming very important. Voluntary benefits have been a pretty consistent force on the eastern side of our country. On our western side, it has been a slower movement, but we're seeing it much more and more out here. And that whole employer-employee relationship, taking care of your employees, making sure your employees feel valued, part of that is the transparency of employee benefit decisions, being able to make decisions that fit their families, to feel like they own those choices. And I think the technology, far more than a piece of paper, allows that to happen. Mobile technology has been just incredibly important, where they can do it from wherever they are, from the smartphone, from their tablets, take it home, talk to their spouses, whatever the situation may be. But it creates an immediate connection to the organization and to the things that they are being offered. Total compensation awareness is a big driver out here for sure, and I've seen it through other areas of the country as well, where through technology you can really show what the employer is providing for employees, that total compensation awareness, through the ability to show sort of a shopping cart style of purchasing of benefits, where they can see how it's directly impacting their paycheck, but the things that aren't impacting their paycheck, the benefits they are getting directly from their employer. And of course, the ability to customize messaging. So employees can feel valued. It can allow for instant feedback. It can provide some great survey information. Of course, all of the promotions of wellness programs, any of those things that really make employees feel like they are valued. Strengthening the employee management relationship. That transparency is a huge deal, and we hear about that a lot, where employees are able to really see their benefit packages, to see those paycheck impacts, and to understand what they're being offered, what the employer provides. And really one area where we really have seen the technology be so powerful is in the voluntary market. I worked with voluntary for many years, and back in the day when they were paper enrollments, your enrollment was not necessarily great. By the time they got to those voluntary applications, they were worn out from filling out their name and the same data over and over. So the great thing with the enrollment benefit technology has really been in that voluntary space, where they see these great options that are completely up for their decision, but they are easy to enroll in. They don't have to repeat information they've already given, and those enrollment statistics are really enormous. We've seen them change from being at 15 to 20% into the 50, 60, and 70% enrollment in those voluntary benefits. So I think that overall, that the whole experience that you offer and can offer through that really engages employees to make decisions, and their awareness in the process is enhanced.
You also had made mention of a decision support tool, and more we're seeing that more and more, and I'm sure that also helps with the engagement, just the education and assisting with those decisions.
Correct.
The big question that we often get is the cost question. So craft, an important topic that sometimes I think is misunderstood, is how can employee benefit technology really help control costs? I hear brokers from time to time say, it really costs me money, it's not controlling costs.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Two things to point to when thinking about costs. First, hard costs, and second, the soft costs that are incurred, both for your clients or as an agency. And starting with the hard cost, I would point to that you're going to want to pick a platform that has a wholesale model, so that you can put as many lives onto your system in as many cases as you'd like, so that you're not constricted or feeling like, oh, I might only want to put 1 or 2 cases on. And so kind of an all-you-can-eat model. You're going to want to make sure for your clients that system has the ability to support the strategic advice that you're giving locally. And in your market, it may be that people are moving to private exchanges and defined contributions. It may be that they're moving to more self-insured level funding or reference-based pricing models. And you're going to want to make sure you pick a platform that allows you to offer and aligns with your strategic initiatives in your market, so that the platform works in all of those cases. And Bernie Portal does in all of those situations, and has had defined contribution for over 5 years, along with a private exchange module. And that's what allows you to go to your clients and say, even, you may have a double-digit increase, but here's how we can reduce that or keep your costs flat, and how we're going to do it with a technology platform to administer it smoothly and easily. From a soft cost perspective, you're really going to want to be thinking about what type of service and implementation cost this is going to be on my agency. Is my platform going to be an extension of my agency, or is that going to have to be housed 100% and supported by my agency? And so Bernie Portal has spent a lot of time thinking about this, and our belief is that, you want to be your local strategic advisor, but technology may not be your strong suit, and you don't want to have to tie up your team's time doing build outs of the cases. And so Bernie Portal's service model is to provide the build outs as well as fix billing issues that come up, dual entry issues, and helping you to automate the onboarding employee benefit side, employee benefit enrollment, so that your agency can focus on the more strategic initiatives with your client base. We think that helps solve both the hard and the soft cost side for brokers, so that they can continue to do what they do best.
You do make a great point about the different funding, the self-insurance, the reference-based pricing. I mean, we're really seeing a movement in that area as well, and to have technology support that, it's just forward thinking. Really that technology solution that you decide on, you want to make sure that that's the right decision for kind of where you're steering your groups as well. So let's turn to Kathy, our employee benefit consultant, talking about really the agency. Mitigating risks, I'm sure, comes up quite a bit for your clients. That's top of mind for them, so it's top of mind for you. How are you using technology to assist with mitigating their risk?
Hi, Lisa, and hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. It does come up, and I think one of the hot buttons that HR and a lot of our clients are concerned about is compliance. That's a hot button. People use it. The DOL is coming out with audits rather frequently, and we've had clients who have been hit with them. So I think using technology with a compliance component, and what I mean by that is where you can upload your documents, you have a record of who saw it, when they saw it, there's a time and date stamp so they can't come back and say, well, you never told me this. And as the, pardon me, as the breadth grows with regard to what needs to be given out in any given state, or for any given benefit, your initial COBRA notice, for example, your exchange notice, your Model D notice, the CHIPRA notice, all of those notices that put a burden onto HR that they have to remember to get this out, and the employees have to sign that they saw it, or however they're manually tracking it now. That's huge, and it's a big burden on HR. And I think being able to sell the compliance tracking aspect is big. In addition, combine that with your WRAP document and your WRAP SPDs, your SMMs. And then if you have the onboarding part of it too, you can also say, hey, here's our handbook. Make sure you read this. Make sure you know our policies and procedures. That comes into play if you have an unemployment comp hearing. Your attendance policies can be tracked, as well as attendance in and out of the employer. So I think there's a lot of things there that are above and beyond a traditional benefits administration platform that as brokers are looking to, put arrows in their quiver. Those are a few extra things that maybe you can bring to the table that others aren't.
Yeah, you talked about just a lot of that reference was HR based, not just employee benefits. And a lot of times, it's tough to really keep all of that straight, where many consultants are employee benefit consultants and maybe not necessarily HR. So that really does help out with those compliance needs. Sometimes when I think compliance, I think ERISA, COBRA, and ACA, but there's so much more there with the HR as well. David, how do you see brokers using technology to address their clients' compliance needs?
Thanks. You can go ahead and just flip up to the, yep, I'm here. You can just go ahead and flip up to the second slide. Okay, so everybody on the panel, we all think in very similar ways. I can tell people out there that. I think that's a good sign, because between us, I think we work with a lot of brokers and a lot of employers, and our thoughts come from what we're seeing happening out there on the street. Now, compliance, the traditional stuff, 1095s for ACA, COBRA, ERISA WRAP documents. When it comes to employee onboarding, I-9, W-4s, things that vary by state. Let's face it, every employer, when they hire an employee or terminate an employee, those things that I just mentioned are touch points. 100% of the time for 100% of the employers with 100% of the employees. If you don't solve that problem, the person who is solving the problem is going to be looking to become the broker of record. So those are the traditional ones that you should just check off the box with one of these solutions. They're out there and they're easy. But the other is to look at some that I think that come along with mastering this kind of technology and embracing the technology to where you can really start to bring some real value to the employers in other ways. For example, the prior panelists talked about the onboarding and how you get signatures. That's very important. In these platforms, for example, an employer might want to present a document to an employee. They might want to present a document to the employee and make sure that the employee looked at it. They might want to present a document to the employee, and it's so important they have to have the employee's signature on that document. It could be any one of the three, but that's a process that needs and can be managed by these SaaS solutions, and it can even be done through mobile devices, which is the way, almost half the population gets their access to the internet today. So very important. The other is when you come and you combine these things with HR support tools that can plug in that you see in the ecosystem. HR AnswerLink, Think HR, HR 360, where you can combine these HRIS, Human Resource Information System tools that track things like PTO and the documents and whether or not they're signed with a layer of consultative expertise that you can bring to your employers on a very scalable way with those solutions. But other ones, let's get into it. Voluntary life insurance, loose waivers. You know what I mean? How many groups are held up with 100 employees when you've got all the enrollment forms, but you're missing 20 waivers? Many of them go through. That's an issue if you have a claim with somebody who had a death where the spouse thought that they would have taken the life insurance if it was offered to them on a guarantee issue basis. Where's the waiver? In the online world, everything's 100%. You get 100% of the waivers. It's not an option to do nothing. It's one or the other. Another example, billing. We look at EDI or integration solutions for enrollment. Lots of coverage, the non-daily eligibility management items. I'm talking about get rid of vision, dental, medical, things like life, disability, where most carriers offer a self-administered solution. I can't tell you as a broker how many times I'd have an employer say, I want to see the bill every month so I can make sure the employee's on the plan. Where in reality, they're better off having a self-administered bill because if they're getting a list bill every month and they missed that one of those 80 people's spouses wasn't on the plan, and they have a claim and they have that bill put in front of them for 9 months in a row, they have a problem. Where on the other hand, if it's a self-administered bill, they just need to prove eligibility and they don't have to inventory everybody in detail on a monthly basis. So why doesn't everybody do that? Because they don't have a technology solution, and creating the self-administered remittance is cumbersome. But in the technology world, it's just a report where you push a button and it appears. Communicating company policies. You want your employees to understand things and to have documentation that it was clearly communicated. You have an ex-employee filing their final expense reports. Things get awfully fuzzy in situations like that, and the employer generally has to concede. And using technology where the information is delivered consistently across all channels and properly documented that it's been distributed, not only keeps the employer compliant with the traditional COBRA 1095s, but also allows the broker across their book of business to bring real value. And like I said at the beginning, and I try to bring technology to a practical aspect of how can you as a broker use this to have your clients say, I like working with this broker because they're doing things for me that the other ones weren't. And those are areas where tech can help.
Just between you and Kathy, some of the things that you just, ran off that listed, I mean, my head's spinning. There's so much. How does not only the client, but the broker keep up with all of this without that kind of technology? And one thing that really caught my attention, you started off saying, about a BOR, taking a BOR. I've had many times a broker say they are prospecting, they are leading with technology in their prospecting efforts to get that BOR. So that really kind of opens up this whole other question that Kraft, hopefully you can comment. What are some of the broker's biggest challenges to leveraging that technology in their business model?
Yeah, absolutely, Lisa. We've seen it a couple of things because brokers have a wide range of clients. And when thinking about introducing a technology platform, they're trying to divide it up amongst their entire books. And often what it is they've got 20% of their book who is ready to go online. Another 20% who would never, they say, I'll never go online until that admin may move on and replaced by a millennial, as David was mentioning. And then there's another 60% right there in the middle where they're going to take their client, they're going to take their broker advisor's recommendation as to what they should do. And that's where we're talking about making sure that you're bringing the solution proactively so that you're putting a fence up around your book of business and providing value to your clients. Now, as far as the challenges of leveraging the technology into your business model, you're going to want to partner with a platform that provides ongoing training, unlimited questions, and a service model that's helping you achieve the highest ROI. A lot of times when thinking about and introducing a SaaS-based platform into your brokerage, it's like that would be great, but then who do I have to service it? Everybody's already stretched so thin. That's why Bernie Portal is taking the approach of local advisors are going to be spending their time continuing to provide strategic advice. They just need a system that works and a back office solution that builds out for them. And so at Bernie Portal, we've taken as many of those challenges of leveraging technology off of our broker partners' shoulders. And the way that we do that is we provide build outs for all of your cases, as well as providing ongoing training both in the sales aspect so that you're able to sell it to current clients as well as new business opportunities, but also training your account managers and service team so that they're familiar enough with the system that they can help in times or questions come up with a CFO, HR person that they may be working with. In our training, we talk about the best way to implement a platform in that 60% group of people who say, I'm going to take my advisor's recommendation. It's not to spend a bunch of time hyping up a system. It's when you get to your renewal meeting and you've got the CEO, CFO, and HR person in the room there, you're going to go through, spend 45 minutes on medical, 10 minutes on ancillary. In the last 5 minutes, you're going to talk about open enrollment meetings. And in that last 5 minutes, that's when you bring up, we're going to move online. And the CEO and CFO are going to look at you and say, well, that sounds good. We're doing everything else online in our business. We should move benefits online. And then that HR person's going to have maybe a rush of anxiety, but you're going to be able to confirm with them that their system's going to work well. Or in some cases, the system will already be built out for them, and you can just show them exactly how it's going to work, giving that HR person a lot more confidence as to how smoothly that enrollment can go. And so, implementing a technology can be a challenge, but you just want to have a good long-term partner there that understands the business and is able to build, support your back office.
So that's an interesting strategy. You're talking about, you're not asking if they want the technology. You're saying, okay, we're open enrollment. We're using technology. It's kind of a given is the way that you approach it.
Yeah, make it the recommendation. They're looking to your recommendation on medical and dental and vision and voluntary products. And so make it the recommendation that this year we're going online, and you need to have a system that can be built out in short time. So, we can do it in 24 to 72 hours after your, annual meeting with your client so that you can then go back and show the HR person how it's going to work.
It actually makes me think of payroll as well. So payroll plays a big part in the technology evolution, but the brokers are so hesitant to bring up, and I understand why, that kind of the payroll conversation. So Tony, you had shared some interesting insight with me before that I'd love for you to share with the audience why you're a big proponent of this payroll integration and talking about it with the brokers.
Sure. Yeah, one of the things that we hear in the market all the time is who do we like for payroll? and I think it's because it's one of those things that brokers are busy with lots of carriers and all their other things that they do in their practice, and so payroll kind of tends to be one of those things that just sort of lingers out there, and their groups will approach them and say, hey, who do you like? And so then, of course, they come to all the partners they have asking. So payroll vendors are really important here because they're the other piece of the puzzle when it comes to employee benefit, employee administration. And for us, we find that the integration of the platforms or the integration of the process, however that's comfortable for a broker or a group, is really important. It can really help with discrepancies, it can help streamline, it can help eliminate duplication of effort, which I think everyone is looking for. You know, brokers, groups, all have lots of systems they use in their daily life, and anywhere where you can eliminate some of those duplications, that is perfect. For us, we really enjoy having a partner that we can exchange information with and not have to bother a broker or a group to get. And if we can take care of the problem, and if we have the information and can administer that for them, that's perfect. So I think that brokers are looking for a solution that handles multiple things. And I know, for instance, with PrimePay, you have, you know, lots of different things, COBRA administration, all these other pieces that really, if you, again, back to the technology advancement, if you can bring those partners together and make a solution that works well and really takes some of that labor off brokers and groups, I think that that's a perfect integration.
And what we share with brokers as well, there's so much valuable data within payroll to help with consultation and compliance. And it's just, you know, starting to use that data and the accessibility of that data. And this technology provides that kind of access as well. So I'm going to kind of shift a little bit here. I'm going to take two focuses, really on the implementation of technology. Kraft, you know, a little overlap here, but you know, the challenges of leveraging technology. But George, if you could address best practices for implementing technology in an agency, and then we'll follow up with Kathy, where if you could address really introducing technology from the client or to your client, so giving it that client perspective.
Yeah, and I think that, thank you, Lisa, when you're implementing it from the agency perspective, I think that you have two topics that you have to address. One is the plans, and two are the operational processes internally to be able to get this done. The operational processes are, I get the joke coming from my dad was in the insurance industry, so every insurance broker promises the world and then goes back to the office and figures out how to deliver it. And so if you think about that, the brokers have to learn to think strategically when implementing this for their customers. When I say strategically, you know, if you have some salespeople, you got to corral these people under some form of an umbrella and say, look, if you're going to implement a technology and the effective date is going to be March 1st, you need to have all the information to us by blank date so that we can turn on the enrollment and give us a few days to get things set up so that there is time to test, make sure that the client can do a user acceptance test, and that they're setting some kind of expectation for your team. Because I really, from our perspective, the salespeople that are not implementing plans are creating havoc on the staff. They don't care, they don't understand sometimes, and they'll go out and promise things. So it's really spending some time and thinking strategically from an agency perspective. How are you going to convert all these cases? Renewing's easy. Converting into a new case is more difficult because of the information that needs to be gathered, and you need to give people the time. The second probably piece is to look at the plan design selections. And time again, there's two types of brokers that are out there. They're the ones that are out providing advice to customers and telling them how to improve their operational processes, challenging them to improve, and how that interacts with technology is very important. So let me give you an example. Does a customer really today need to have subgroup billing on an 834 for their medical insurance? So a best practice for Employee Navigator is for the broker should be sitting down and talking to their customers to say, do we really need to have one bill going to California and one bill going to Massachusetts? Is that good? Is that a good thing? Does it make the process easier? Does it make the process more difficult? And I think that when we look at these different pieces in there, that it does make it more difficult. So the best practice is, you know, is to look at what is making the implementation and the administration harder from a plan's perspective. Multi-site billing, grandfathered employees, all these things, because there's the other type of broker who just is afraid, takes a BOR, and is afraid to change anything, which makes implementing all these different plans very difficult for insurance, which really is a commodity. Is there really a difference between one company's voluntary life insurance plan and another company's voluntary life insurance plan? Pretty much, Lisa, when you're dead, you're dead. And the insurance carrier reps can fight over some of the differences that are out there. But I think standardizing your operation and your plan selection is going to go a long way to help you roll this out to your entire book of business, instead of writing individual plans for every single customer in every single instance for a commodity. So streamlining those operations.
So really reevaluating their entire business process, not, as I started off in the conversation, not doing the status quo. What they've always done in the past isn't going to work in the future.
Yeah, exactly. With paper, paper is paper.
Yeah.
Paper's easy sometimes.
Mm-hmm. In the beginning, on the front end, it may be easy, but yeah. So Kathy, from your perspective, just working with, I'm sure you have clients that are apprehensive to start this, or ones that are just ready to embrace it. Tell us really what's working for you.
It's all across the board. You hit the nail on the head. Some want to embrace it, and some are petrified. And I think it speaks also to the fact that millennials are up and coming, and this is what they're used to. But I think the most important takeaway on rolling this out to your clients is you've got to know your client. There aren't really, from my perspective, there aren't really any best practices, because just like people are individuals, your clients are all unique. And, it kind of speaks to, I'm going back to HR, because HR is a huge driver. We've got one client that the executive director says, this is great, we want our employees on it. And for the last 3 years, HR has stalled it. They're using it, they're using the technology, but they won't roll it out to their employees. And I think some HR people who are wearing a ton of hats will embrace this and say, oh, you're going to make my life so much easier. I'm tracking all this stuff on several different Excel spreadsheets, and I can't wait until we can get some technology here to make my life easier. And then you flip the coin and you've got HR saying, I don't need help, I need my job. And if I let you come in and streamline all of this, what am I going to do? So I think you have to know your client to know what approach to use that will, pique their interest, so to speak. And maybe it's not so much that you need your job, but using this technology and learning this technology that we're going to train you how to use, and we're your easy button. You call us, we're local. This is going to help you keep your job. So it's just how you approach each client. I don't think there's a blanket statement that this is the best way to do it for everyone.
So really, talking to the HR people, the office, the department, and helping them understand this can help you be more strategic. This isn't replacing your role. It's really helping you in addressing how it can help.
Exactly. Show your value by what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
Our last question. Oh, sorry. Did somebody have a comment?
Oh, it was Kraft. I didn't know. Do you want me to comment on this one, Lisa, or should we just move on?
Sure.
Sure. I would agree with George in that it takes, you're going to want to make sure as an agency you know the capabilities of the system, so that there's no over-promising and under-delivering. And we do think that the best way to do that is to spend time getting training on it, so that as a salesperson, you're able to go out and get new business and align expectations, so that both your clients and your internal service people everybody's happy. And so that training has to consist of both sales and implementing with clients, but also what's on the roadmap and what are we going to be able to do with this technology. And then when thinking about it from a brokerage standpoint, implementing a technology, you're going to want to have a long-term partner, because nobody wants to be changing these systems every 12 to 24 months. So doing a lot of due diligence on the front end to make sure that it's going to be able to address the majority of your book of business will pay dividends long into the future. Bernie Portal plans to be here. I think all of these companies out here are private models right now, and so financials are definitely something that they keep to themselves. Bernie Portal's a profitable business, and so at being profitable, we see a long runway to being able to continue to service our clients for years into come.
I hope you're not implying that any of us are not profitable.
No, I don't know. I just don't know.
Okay.
But you make a good point that you're a privately held company and not public, because that does change the dynamics.
Absolutely.
So, good point. So you see the last question up here. Let's really kind of wrap this up by discussing that complete integration with HR, payroll, benefits. Sometimes I call it the ecosystem, the buzzword out there. David?
Sure, thank you. Let's everybody remember, Amazon technically is not profitable. There's lots of ways to run these businesses, and being around is an important consideration going down to the future. In the Silicon Valley world, there's a lot of big plays coming out there, and I think it is important to be conscious of the fact that when you pick a solution, these players like Zenefits have raised $500 million, and Gusto's raised almost $100 million just to go after the broker segment. So these are big guns that you've got to compete with out there. In the complete solution, the bottom line is it's got to be affordable. So one of the fact checks out there is that 76% of businesses in America have under 10 employees. We have about 40,000 employers on the platform. We do anywhere between 2,000 and 5,000 employers per month. That's because brokers are deploying a lot of small groups. So one of the things that I think is important in the solution is that it's scalable. Okay, and in all elements, the characteristics are the same, but the needs are different. Show me a 7-life group. You're probably doing some enrollment forms, some periodic plan changes, not a lot of sophistication in terms of payroll, carrier connectivity. The carriers are going to drive that it's form-based. It's a similar business transaction, but you're taking paper out of the hands of the user at the end. But here we go. Basically, number one, you need to have a complete HR solution with transparency, efficiency, and elasticity that's going to accommodate the group need if it's a 6-life group or if it's a 300-life group. They don't fly 747s from San Diego to Los Angeles. They use those for the long flights. In any business, scalability is going to be critical to your solution. Remember when the days you had dictation? When I went to work for Lincoln National, I got a dictaphone. When I wanted to send a letter, I would talk into this thing and give the tape to somebody, and they would type up the letter and I would send it. We all now send our emails ourselves. Why? One, simple tasks are easy just to do ourselves, and we can't afford to do it the old way. And it's much the same when it comes to an enrollment platform. Little groups are simple and quick to deploy, and internal capabilities within the agency is often the most efficient way, I believe, to deliver those. A second need, though, is you've got to be able to deliver a custom offering to each employer based on their employee demographics. Okay, they're going to be very, very different types of groups out there in terms of the types of benefits that you're going to be offering. And with the consumerification of healthcare and the millennial drivers out there, we're seeing a lot of high deductibles with a lot of voluntary benefits underneath, where millennials like to pick and choose them and buy if they're going to participate over their mobile devices. The third thing is, you need to have a suite of resources that are going to be available around the clock. Okay, the notion of going in and talking to HR, having sit-down one-on-ones may exist to some degree, but that's becoming a fading way. If you can flip the slide there. So basically today, employers are looking for more from their broker when it comes to getting these HR solutions along with enrollment. And they want to adopt technology, and they want advice on which ones of these platforms to use. What's really important to recognize, though, as a broker, is your competitor's no longer your fellow broker. It's the direct-to-employer software companies like the Zenefits or the Gustos and the payroll vendors that, all in fair play, are using those relationships in order to provide the services everybody today is talking about and cut you out. You can go to the next slide, please. So, broker, you want to simplify enrollment. The idea of going out and handing out paper forms to groups, it's just not going to work. It would be like going out there and dictating into a microphone and having your secretary write a letter. They're just not going to do business with you if you do business that way anymore. You want to have increased visibility during the enrollment process, and in a world of commission compression, you need better ways to increase your revenue. Somebody out here had commented earlier about the ability to enroll things like voluntary benefits and ancillary products, because the employer no longer has to deal with the headaches of paper-based administration. Not only does it give you stickiness, it allows you to broaden out the revenue channel on each of your individual clients. Now, from an employer, okay, why did benefits go down? Employers still want a trusted resource that they can go to. They want their trusted broker. They want some type of HR software that's going to meet the needs of these millennials. Mobile is going to be very important. Being in a central location is going to be important. And then employees. We're moving into the consumerification element. So the solution today not only is the three-legged stool in terms of benefit, HR, and payroll. It's got to be highly flexible in recognizing that much of the transaction and delivery of information is to a whole new era. Over half of them are going to be millennial in the next 5 years. It's going to be mobile, and it's going to be in a high deductible environment with a lot of choices.
That certainly was a very good wrap up. I was going to wrap up some of the common themes, but you really just did it in that slide. We are 10 minutes over. We were going to share a success story for those that want to still remain. If one of our panelists just has a phenomenal success story in the next couple minutes, and then we'll turn it back over to Steve.
Lisa, may I interject something before we turn over to that?
Yeah, sure.
I would like to recommend to any of the brokers who have not yet gone down this road to do your homework. Start with a wish list of what your agency needs help with. Just, jot everything to the kitchen sink on that wish list. And then just as your clients do to you, go out to the vendors and conduct an RFP and make sure you ask for not only their ability to deliver on all of the things that you're looking for, but what are the added costs for each of the components that you need? Is this a PEPM cost on a platform? Do a cost analysis not only now, but long term. As your business grows, what are you looking for cost-wise down the road?
That's awesome. Thank you, Kathy. I'm sure the brokers on the call will really appreciate your insight and what you went through in trying to determine the best fit technology. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, very quickly, any success story? And then we'll wrap up here. Success story may be around really how it grew a broker's book of business or helped them move up market.
So, Lisa, this is George. I think that I don't want to, I'm not here to plug an organization or, to talk about our organization, but I just wanted to highlight that there's two types of brokers that are out there. They're the brokers that are reluctantly dragged to a technology solution because a current customer is using it, a current customer wants it, or a prospective customer wants it. Those brokers will probably complain to all the panelists that are on here that are going to say the implementation was difficult, the process was slow and long, the software solution wasn't what I expected it to be. Then you have another set of brokers who are strategically saying, in 5 years, my book of business is going to be online and I need to take some strategic actions. And so we'll have brokers, and I'm sure everyone can see that, would agree with this, that they'll have brokers that put a couple cases online and that's about it. They think that they're going to get away with that. And then we have other people that are using the solutions, and I know it's the same for all the other panelists, that they're putting their customers online and they can't hire enough people because they're promoting the technology over the insurance. And they're providing that support to their customers to get them into a new age of electronic enrollment, of electronic HR solutions. And those people that are adopting, those brokers that are adopting that are thriving. The brokers that are reluctantly being pulled along are, they're holding on. We do have brokers, and I know I know that our panelists will agree with me. You'll have brokers that just cannot control the growth and don't know what to do. And you'll have and it's a result of adopting the technology. And that's why Zenefits grew, because they paid attention to the HR's desire to get their benefits and systems online instead of the broker who sometimes has blinders on, and that blinders restricts their view to benefits. instead of onboarding, PTO, and all the other HR solutions that are out there that are being automated and make their lives easier. So I just didn't want to, pick a specific broker. I didn't think that would be fair to the panel, but just to kind of point out, and I don't know if anyone would agree with me in those two buckets of brokers.
Absolutely. This is David Breed. And when I have conversations, I describe it in a very similar manner. Is that there's the brokers that embrace the technology and the brokers that have adopted it because they were backed into a corner on a particular use situation. It's either that they were going to lose a BOR or they wanted to obtain a BOR. And I always say that if you're looking at a quick solution to save a BOR, you're too late. And you're better off adopting and embracing the technology to recover that later. I will say this though, and it was in the analogy I was using on dictating letters, where people would think they didn't have time to type their own letters. It's a new era. It's a new way of doing business. And I will tell you, I could name a lot of very well-known brokerages around the country that have adopted and embraced technology. They systematically put every single group they have whenever there's a play on the group. If a group, again, an 8-life group that's totally dormant, it's a law firm, they're family owned, they're not changing health plans, all they got is medical. Technology is to save time. There's not a lot to do on those. But anytime something's going to happen, a new enrollment, open enrollment, they adopted technology at that time, they implement the group, and I've never, ever, ever, ever seen one go back. Not one. Not one.
Very good. I mean, very good perspective, because you are living it day in and day out, all of you, with the brokers on the call. Let's Steve, I'll turn it over to you, kind of wrap up. We are well over. Thank you, everybody, for remaining.
Oh, well, I'm going to sum it up like this. I think it's been very well received, folks. I received a comment from one of the attendees saying that this has been one of the best webinars that they have participated in years. So thank you, panelists, for that, and Lisa for hosting. Here's what we're going to do on the questions and answers. You attendees are wonderful. You have submitted a tremendous amount of questions, and we will not be able to have the time to go through that. However, never fear. We are going to ensure that these fine panelists have the ability to reach out to each one of you and answer your questions, okay? So we will ensure that they have some access, and you certainly have access by looking at we're going to provide contact information where if you're searching for additional information on these specific organizations, we would love to at least recommend each one of these as they are right fit. As Kathy had mentioned, it's creating that wish list, right? What's best for your agency? What do you feel is best for your clients? And I'm just going to share in our follow-up, we're going to have a tool for you that you can use actually to do that. So I want to thank actually Kraft, David, George, Tony, and Kathy. Thank you so much for your valuable time and the knowledge. It was a wonderful transfer of knowledge that you've given us, and the content has been wonderful. I really appreciate what the time you've given us, and also wish you wonderful success here into 2018. Just a couple things here as we wrap up here today. In our follow-up email to you, we are also going to be providing a 1-hour continuing education course. This is a webinar-based course that will be based on how technology is changing the employee benefit industry. It will be held here on March 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern. So look for the registration link specific to that specific offering. We believe in forever training here at PrimePay, and we do believe that more education is absolutely going to lead to more opportunity for you. So with that being said, our follow-up email will be coming out to you here in a couple days. Here's what to look for. Everyone that has attended here today, you are going to receive a link to the recording. We do post it publicly on Broker Concierge channel on YouTube, so you can feel free to see that. We are going to ensure that your questions are answered in any way possible, all right? So we will be able to reach out to you here directly for that. Now, exclusively for our BC, our broker concierge partners, you will also receive this presentation slide deck that we use today, and then 2 important tools. We believe in providing you with just more opportunity to drive information and energy and opportunity here through your agency. So we're going to give you 2 tools. One is exactly what Kathy had mentioned in giving you kind of a support tool, kind of a checklist of sorts, questions to ask these great technology organizations. To be able to give you, it's kind of a decision support tool to enable you to make the right decision for your agency and for your clients. And we also have a wonderful, actually brand new integrated solutions flyer that I think you'll find very valuable as you speak about these things with your clients. If you do not know anything about PrimePay, or certainly how Broker Concierge can actually partner with you and enhance your agency, please reach out to concierge@primepay.com, or certainly the number there that's on the screen. As we do the first Wednesday of every month, beginning in March is no different. Our next 2 webinars is actually going to be a 2-part series, and it's going to be on how you can use compliance to facilitate growth for your agency. Actually, one of the key topics that we spoke about today. So you're not going to want to miss that, and we hope you can join us. With that, thank you again to the panelists. Lisa Collins, thank you so much for hosting this today. The information was so valuable, and we hope that we've brought some practical application to your agency here today. That will conclude our webinar. Have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.